I should start out by admitting that this video is really older than my target audience for Read by Papa. But you know what, kids? You're going to get here eventually, so I'm going to introduce this to you. Just let me get it out of my system, and someday you'll remember that I told you this, and you'll be better off for it. Okay. When you start writing, when you start learning how to write stories or essays or things like that, your English teacher is going to tell you to avoid run-on sentences. What's a run-on sentence? I'm glad you asked. It's a sentence that's too long, really needs to be broken up into smaller sentences. And what I'm going to do is introduce you to my all-time favorite run-on sentence. This is a sentence that was written and spoken by John Adams on March 4th, 1797, which was the day he became the second president of the United States. After you're sworn in as president, you're expected to give a speech. It's called an inaugural address. And as part of this speech, he wanted to say something to the people who were listening to him. Among them were the Senate and the House of Representatives, the so-called two houses of Congress. Those two houses had just recently passed some sort of a resolution urging him and all future presidents to follow the example of George Washington. And he was certainly aware that they had done so, since he was the presiding officer of the Senate as vice president. So he wanted to say something about that. And so he's going to write a sentence where he's going to talk about following the recommendation of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Okay, he could just say, I'm going to follow your recommendations. But it'd be better if he said something like, I'm going to work hard to follow your recommendations. Well, instead we can say, it shall be my strenuous endeavor to follow your recommendations. Or let's make the word recommendation look a little bit more fancy, and we're going to call it a sagacious injunction. What's a sagacious injunction? It's a recommendation. And he's wanting to point out that he's going to make Congress look good for having passed this resolution. And so the sentence, as it now stands, is he's going to say, it shall be my strenuous endeavor that this sagacious injunction of the two houses shall not be without effect. Okay, well, that's a good starting point. But let's admit, talk is cheap. And so some people are going to say, don't say it, just do it. And so he's going to try and address these people by adding, on this subject, it might become me better to be silent or speak with diffidence. But as something may be expected, I venture to say that it shall be my strenuous endeavor that the sagacious injunction of the two houses shall not be without effect. Okay, he's being bold, and he's saying that he's going to do this thing, but he should probably apologize for being so bold, and also point out just why it is that he's saying this. He's saying it because it's his inauguration, and he's expected to say things like that. So, let's make the sentence a little bit longer, shall we? On this subject, it might become me better to be silent or to speak with diffidence. But as something may be expected, the occasion, I hope, will be admitted as an apology if I venture to say that it shall be my strenuous endeavor that the sagacious injunction of the two houses shall not be without effect. Okay, well, he's going to add to this. He wants to talk about his personal qualifications, that he thinks he has some qualities that are going to make it possible for him to accomplish this thing they're wanting him to do, to follow George Washington's example. So he can address that. On this subject, it might become me better to be silent or to speak with diffidence, but as something may be expected, the occasion, I hope, will be admitted as an apology if I venture to say that if a love of virtuous men of all parties and denominations can enable me in any degree to comply with your wishes, it shall be my strenuous endeavor that this sagacious injunction of the two houses shall not be without effect. Okay, we could stop there, but no, he's going to go on. He's going to talk about other things that he thinks are going to help him to follow George Washington's example. On this subject, it might become me better to be silent or to speak with diffidence, but as something may be expected, the occasion, I hope, will be admitted as an apology if I venture to say that if a love of virtuous men of all parties and denominations, if a resolution to do justice as far as may depend upon me at all times and to all nations, and to maintain peace, friendship, and benevolence with all the world, if an unshaken confidence in the honor, spirit, and resources of the American people, on which I have so often hazarded my all and have never been deceived, I think my dog is getting into this, I can tell, can enable me in any degree to comply with your wishes, it shall be my strenuous endeavor that this sagacious injunction of the two houses shall not be without effect. Okay, back to this. I just put my dog outside. I've made an amazing discovery. My dog doesn't like politics. He's still barking outside. Okay, so this is the sentence that John Adams is going to expand on because, well, he's John Adams and he can do things like this. So, here is the sentence that he actually said. Now, notice this is one section, a sentence, starts with a capital letter, ends in a period. And here goes. Oh, and let me see. Okay. On this subject, it might become me better to be silent or to speak with diffidence, but as something may be expected, the occasion, I hope, will be admitted as an apology, if I venture to say that if a preference upon principle of a free republican government formed upon long and serious reflection after diligent and impartial inquiry after truth, if an attachment to the Constitution of the United States and a conscientious determination to support it until it shall be altered by the judgments and wishes of the people expressed in the mode prescribed in it, if a respectful attention to the constitutions of the individual states and a constant caution and delicacy towards the state governments, if an equal and impartial regard to the rights, interests, honors, and happiness of all the states in the Union without preference or regard to a northern or southern, an eastern or western position, their various political opinions on unessential points, or their personal attachments, if a love of virtuous men of all parties and denominations, if a love of science and letters, and a wish to patronize every rational effort to encourage schools, colleges, universities, academies, and every institution for propagating knowledge, virtue, and religion among all classes of the people, not only for their benign influence on the happiness of everyday life in all its stages and classes, and of society in all its forms, but as the only means of preserving our Constitution from its natural enemies, the spirit of sophistry, the spirit of party, the spirit of intrigue, the profligacy of corruption, and the pestilence of foreign influence, which is the angel of destruction to elective governments. If a love of equal laws of justice and humanity in the interior administration, if an inclination to improve agriculture, commerce, and manufacturers for necessity, convenience, and defense, if a spirit of equity and humanity toward the aboriginal nations of America, and a disposition to ameliorate their conditions by inclining them to be more friendly to us, and our citizens to be more friendly to them, If an inflexible determination to maintain peace and inviolable faith with all nations, and that systems of neutrality and impartiality among the belligerent powers of Europe, which have been adopted by this government and so solemnly sanctioned by both houses of Congress and applauded by the legislatures of the states and the public opinion until it shall be otherwise ordained by Congress, if a personal esteem for the French nation, formed in a residence of 7 years, chiefly among them, and a sincere desire to preserve the friendship which has been so much for the honor and interest of both nations, if, while the conscious honor and integrity of the people of America and the internal sentiment of their own power and energies must be preserved, an earnest endeavor to investigate every just cause and remove every colorable pretense of complaint, if an intention to pursue by amicable negotiations the reparation for the injustices which have been committed on the commerce of our fellow citizens by whatever nation, and if success cannot be obtained, to lay the facts before the legislature that they may consider what further measures the honor and interest of the government and its constituents demand. If a resolution to justice, as far as may depend upon me at all times and to all nations, and to maintain peace, friendship, and benevolence with all the world, if an unshakable confidence in the honor, spirit, and resources of the American people, on which I have so often hazarded my all and have never been deceived, if elevated ideas of the high destinies of this country and of my own duty towards it, founded on a knowledge of the moral principles and intellectual improvements of the people deeply engraven in my mind in early life, and not obscured but exalted by experience and age, and with humble reverence, I feel it is my duty to add, if a veneration for the religion of a people who profess and call themselves Christian, and a fixed resolution to consider a decent respect for Christianity among the best recommendations for the public service, can enable me in any degree to comply with your wishes, it shall be my strenuous endeavor that this sagacious injunction of the two houses shall not be without effect. Period. Wow. That is a run-on sentence, and it takes some serious effort to construct something like that. I am impressed, despite myself.